we are covering another Black Mirror episode, this time from the previous season. Joan is awful.
And I'm sure there's someone on the internet who does think we're awful, and I hope they keep it to themselves, because I'll be sad.
I mean, I'm sure.
Little baby.
That's like a sign of success sometimes. When people think that you're awful. Some people think we're awesome and wonderful. But why don't we dive in, because I have a lot to talk about.
Say your many
There's
words.
A lot to go on with specifically this ridiculousness. So this episode of Black Mirror, Joan is Awful, is from 2023. So it's 2 years ago, and it was still, saying a lot, saying stuff we're actively dealing with now. But it's about an average woman is stunned to discover a global streaming platform has launched a prestige TV drama adaptation of her life, in which she is portrayed by Hollywood A-lister Salma Hayek, and it's directed by Ali Pinku. Like, that's such a nice way to say it, She has a show, and she's, portrayed by Salma Hayek. It's amazing. It's scary. Nice. It's wonderful. Yeah. Joan is Awful is a cautionary tale of our dangerous future in the shadow of hyper-surveillance, deep fakes, and AI ownership. Opening up the 6th season of the sci-fi horror show Black Mirror, Joan is Awful explores the horror of accepting shady terms and conditions. Black Mirror is known for its manipulation of our current tech, distorting it into something horrific and challenging, and this episode demonstrates a very real fear surrounding ownership of our image. With the existence of AI that grows more powerful every day in recreating human likeness, and more frequently used to bring actors back from the dead, how can we maintain control of our image? That's what most of my stuff is. But what happens in this show is that Joan Tate is an ordinary woman who, after a particularly challenging day, finds that her life has been turned into a hit Streamberry series called Joan is Awful. She's like, why is it awful? Yeah, like your face is on there. I don't even know. I'd just be so shook. Starring Salma Hayek as an over-dramatized, villainous version of herself. She gets the villain edit. All her intimate moments, revealing her as a flawed and incredibly human, are on display. In the pilot episode alone, we are introduced to Joan as she fires an employee while admitting to shady environmental dealings in the company, has a sad therapy session, and cheats on her fiancé. So it's a particularly bad day.
They chose an oof of a day to start her show, for sure.
Even her subsequent crash out over the show's existence is on the show, as the program uses Joan's real data, like listening through her phone and any tech available, to recreate the day's events. Rude. Like her lawyer's just like, you ever just like, you're talking about something and then later you get an advertisement? It's listening. We know that. We've been talking about that. That alarm had been sounded.
So many things have been sued because of doing that.
They'd be listening. So she is fired from her job for breaking her NDA, though it was Salma Hayek, not Joan, who broke the NDA. It does not count. It's her,
Yeah.
Broken up with and utterly alone, as everyone sees her worst moments played on the home screens. Like, she can't get a break. She tries to fight back too, to sue Streamberry, but she has no ground to stand on as they own her, since she had blindly accepted the platform's terms and conditions. And a fun fact is that when this episode launched, they had a make your own like Joan is Awful poster, which I made my own of. I did not use their streaming service thing. But they have this website and you would go and it looks like Streamberry, like Netflix, and you'd have to sign in and you'd have to click like agree to terms and conditions, and it was like, we own you. Terms and conditions. So it was like, and people made a bunch of them. There's so many out there. Again, I made my own. Did not agree.
Use Canva.
Yeah, I use Canva, which I don't know. They probably own me too.
Yeah, maybe.
She considers suing Salma Hayek as well, but it's revealed that it isn't even her on the screen. It's an AI generated version. And Miss Hayek has also blindly signed away her life. It's like, it goes deep. Ever clever Joan, as an act of desperation, commits a crazy act that is aimed to upset Salma Hayek, whose body would be the one on screen for the audience doing that act. She's like, if Salma gets mad, maybe we'll have a chance. So after Salma Hayek learns that she too has no power in this situation, her, Salma Hayek of all people, the two team up and try to take down the entire operation. During their attempt, they learn that there are many versions of this show, with other people shown to be awful. Joan and Selma break in to destroy the equipment and discover that Joan isn't Joan Prime at all, but the AI version of Annie Murphy, the actress, portraying real-life Joan, who has teamed up with real-life Annie Murphy to destroy everything. It's like, and then there's like another level where like Salma Hayek is being portrayed by like Kate Beckinsale, I think. Kate Blanchett.
Kate Winslet.
Blanchett. So it's like it keeps going, and
how many servers exist? How many Joans are there?
Yeah, how many people think that they're Joan? The deception goes deep, several layers down, stemming from the original Joan. And OG Joan destroys the machine and takes back her life in an unexpectedly happy ending for Black Mirror.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's so nice. I love that we had a win.
Yeah, it's a rare feat in television. Especially considering the fact that Joan is awful stemmed from the idea that they were like, happiness doesn't sell. It does. We liked it. So the bulk of my section is going to be about accepting the terms and conditions, and now they own your face.
Yeah.
They own you forever. In today's world, accepting the terms and conditions can have deadly and life-altering consequences. While Joan is Awful is comical and over the top in its representations of the lengths greedy studios and companies will go to own our lives, we have seen this abuse of power in a variety of ways. Just a few weeks after this episode aired, which was like on June 15th, 2023, the SAG-AFTRA went on strike in July 2023.
Yeah, immediate,
Actors and writers formed a dual strike, the likes of which Hollywood hadn't seen since the 1960s. And of the many issues causing the labor disputes, at the top were disagreements over intellectual property rights, artistic integrity, the lack of residuals from streaming services, and new developments within artificial intelligence and synthetic media technology, which is media produced by generative AI, or colloquially known as deepfakes. So literally what Netflix is doing right now with their AI show. They were like, we made this show about it, but whatever. So it's eerily prescient that Joan was fighting against Black Mirror's version of their home network Netflix, known as Streamberry, as they aggressively abused both the actors and consumers of their media. It was happening. While Joan's horror story revolved around her life being stolen and manipulated for views, Salma Hayek, and by extension the real Annie Murphy, their horror was their artistic and intellectual property being stolen, essentially robbing them of their well-earned residuals, but also their entire personhood, because them as an actor is who they are, and you stole that. You stole their job.
And I mean, like, you also like think of like actors who have been like canceled or like called out for taking on roles that are problematic, and then like they would basically be forced to live that forever because the AI is making them do horrific things that they maybe wouldn't have signed up for themselves. So horrifying.
Yeah, it really murkies like the accountability. And then also with deep fakes too, it's like sometimes people are shown to say or do things that they're not saying or doing. So it goes deep. And the real villain in each instance, other than big TV, is the fine print. We've already seen just how far companies will take their signed documents, going as far as using it to wipe away wrongful death, as was the case with Connachporn Tongswan's family, who filed a lawsuit after she had a fatal allergic reaction after eating at an Irish pub in Disney Springs. They had reported to them like that she had a peanut and dairy allergy and were assured it was fine, but this was ultimately ignored, leading to her tragic death. And her husband, Jeffrey Piccolo, sought to sue the entertainment giant Disney, but they disputed the claim due to Piccolo agreeing to terms and conditions when signing up for 1 month free trial of the Disney streaming service Disney Plus, which includes, it says like the first page of the subscriber agreement states in all capital letters that any dispute between you and us, except for small claims, is subject to a class action waiver and must be resolved by individual binding arbitration, the company wrote in a motion seeking to have the case dismissed. And these details were shared in an AP News article, Why Disney's Wrongful Death Suit Serves as a Warning to Consumers. It was essentially like, you can't sue us for anything ever. if you agree to this.
You signed up to Disney Plus. Absurd.
Which is so insane. Like, and everyone was like, you're being ridiculous. In no world do you get to be like, you signed up for this one service and now, you know, for history, you can't ever be mad at us.
Yeah.
We can't ever be held accountable. That's insane. And while they did backtrack that defense, ultimately not using it to defend the suit, it still sets a bad precedent. In those moments where Joan sits across from a lawyer demanding that she get retribution, that surely there's someone she can hold accountable, we see this reality in sharp focus. No one is coming to save us, as we've all dug our own graves. How many of us have truly read the terms and conditions? I scroll. I don't know what any of those words mean, right? Further, how many of us...
but it's hard.
Right. Like, how many of us truly understand what we're agreeing to regardless, right?
They use confusing words.
Right. Not all of us are skilled at lawyer speak, and these companies know that. Like, even just reading that, I was like, how am I supposed to know that's what that means? Like, we don't all have a lawyer right sitting next to us reading over our terms and conditions like the way you would read over any actual contract. Right? Like, you don't just sign anything, but we'd be signing everything every day. This episode was rare for Black Mirror in that the technology did not threaten life in the traditional sense. Arguably, all the copies in the system are dead, right? But, like, real Joan's alive, and so is Andy Murphy. The horror we see is more linked to our identity being stolen and just, like, our right to, to that identity. We have talked previously on the Ghouls, most recently in our Alien Romulus episode, about how production companies were bringing actors back from the dead to star in their movies. And as we saw in that newest Alien film, where they resurrected actor Ian Holmes to appear as a synthetic human. By utilizing Ian Holmes' likeness in this new film, it unintentionally echoes the very abuses that film was trying to condemn. Holmes, much like the character that he was playing, has been immortalized and puppeted, his image used to serve a large, more powerful company. Right? The irony is lost in them. The same summer this episode premiered, a production house was trying to cast long dead actor James Dean to be in a new film, Back to Eden. I could not find if that film ever actually exists, so I'm hoping it just got canned because they were like, this is ridiculous. I will say there's a really great book. Check out my book review of it. But Bury Your Gaze has a whole thing about the horrors of like regenerating dead actors and why you should be afraid to do that. The hope for this was to have AI generated deepfake technology walk, talk, and interact as Dean would with other actors in the film. It makes me think of like there's a video of Sir Ian McKellen for I think the Hobbit movies, and like for the Lord of the Rings movies, everything was like everyone was there, and there's practical effects. There's a lot of beauty that went into Peter Jackson's work. And The Hobbit, it was all green screen, and so there's this like video of him, and you see the background and everything, like as if he's on set, and he's like trying to act, and then he just gets frustrated, and then all that falls away, and you see he's alone in a room that's just green, and he's just so frustrated because he's a real actor, and now he's not even talking to a real person, and he has to be like pretend, like it's just such a disconnected, sad way to make art, and you just see his like sadness, and that's what it makes me think of, is like these actors having to interact with James Dean in any type of authentic way, as if he's really here. Like, so as exciting and like happy I guess it was to have General Organa like be in that final Star Wars film that she was in posthumously, right, for like fans. It was like a nice send-off, and I'm sure she was like, that you can have one last thing. But to know like her as an actor and all of the stuff that she went through, and like you're still holding her to this, like Han Solo has to die, you know, like what are we doing, you know? Also, actor Susan Sarandon spoke out against the new technology and his threat to her and other actors' livelihoods during the strike, saying that they could make her say and do things I have no choice about. Much in the same way we see Salma Hayek argue in the show. It's like, and then it happened. Like, they were like, look at this horror thing. And then the next month, that's what was happening. An article on BBC, How AI is Resurrecting Dead Actors, drops a few names that have already suffered the reanimation horrors. Carrie Fisher, which I just mentioned, Harold Ramis, and Paul Walker. So heartbreaking to see. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Are just a few notable celebrities who reprised iconic film roles posthumously. Brazilian singer Elis Regina was also recently resurrected for a car advertisement where she was shown duetting with her daughter, Maria Rita. That pisses me off even more.
Yeah.
This raises a variety of questions on ownership and identity, right? Who owns the rights to someone's face when they're no longer with us? What about their voice and their brand? Right? Like who they showed themselves to be in the world. How can anyone control their image, manipulate them into performing in things they themselves will never have a say over? Like, I don't understand how anyone could be like, yeah, we're going to do that to them. Like your image is everything. Actors, influencers, and creators whose faces and likenesses or their livelihood have every right to fear a future where they are essentially owned, and worse, indefinitely so. In an article on Consequence Film titled Hollywood Studios Propose Using AI to Scan and Own Extras Likenesses Forever, they report on the fears of actors during the strike, saying, during a press conference, SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree, Ireland, said that AMPTP made a so-called groundbreaking AI proposal that would allow the likeness of film and television background performers to be used in perpetuity. They propose that our background performers should be able to be scanned, get paid for 1 day's pay, and their company should own that scan of their image, their likeness, and should be able to use it for the rest of eternity in any project they want with no consent and no compensation.
Absolutely not.
Right. So if you think that's a groundbreaking proposal, I suggest you think again, is what Duncan Crabtree, Ireland said. Even looking past the obvious worries of their bodies being abused or manipulated for views, there's also a case to be made against the deceased being used in advertisements specifically. Like, I think it's one thing, like, we're putting in movies that they probably didn't agree to. Like, the lawyer's like, yeah, I guess if, like, Salma Hayek had to, like, sleep with a bear or something, like, she might have a problem with that, but she can't do anything. She would just be on TV. That's why she's like, I was in a church. That was my body in the church. Even though it wasn't my body in the church, you know? I think it's like another level if they're used for advertisements and that already happens, right? So like, even without the AI ickiness, I'm against using dead identities to sell things, right? So an example of this is Casely, which is like a phone case company, had a whole line of phone cases based around artist Frida Kahlo, who in her life had been strongly anti-capitalist and would have hated that. She hated consumerism. It was like, and it's like, oh, here's a whole line, buy of $60. And I was like, it's pretty. I love her art. Like, you know, as much as you love the
art post death. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, art before the artist and all of that stuff, but come on. And it's like, imagine that, but now reusing her face or her personhood to advertise something that maybe she really hated. Like, that's crazy. It's a dangerous landscape right now where even our editing software threatens to steal our intellectual property, reusing our likeness for advertising even now while we are alive and forever after. So as is the case with CapCut's recent updates to their terms and services, which is why I had to cancel our subscription to avoid our work being stolen. And it broke my heart because I was really enjoying using it. It made things really easy, and stop doing this to me. It takes me a minute to learn a new thing, and then they're like, ooh, you fell it into our trap. And it's like, no, I'll just go back to doing it the hard way. Like, I'm fine. CapCut.
Why do you gotta ruin it?
Right? CapCut had rolled out new terms that included the right to copy, share, and modify people for marketing campaigns and promotional material, the right to use your name, image, and voice, and the right to give other people or companies permission to use it too. So our faces are on there because I get clips of our show, and then they could be like, ha ha ha, now you're selling a protein shake or something, you know? Like, and it'd be like I'm vegetarian, Cat's lactose intolerant, and then we would be in there like, get this milk product. You
get
know,
this
like,
whey base. Yeah.
You know? I did just see like a video. I've seen videos where literally like like people were like, I just saw my face. Like someone took me and made a new video where I'm saying different stuff, I've never said in my life. And now,
I've seen lots of influencers talk about that. Yeah.
It's terrifying. Or I just saw like there's this couple that I follow and they're really funny. And there was like a video of them and they were laughing and the wife like falls and someone had edited it to so that it was like she died or something. And
I literally saw that today. That's hilarious. But they're like them talking about it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I didn't know my wife is dead. She's right here. That one didn't use AI, but like people are just like stealing your stuff. You know, like they're doing that with or without AI. But imagine your own face saying stuff you never said. Like that's crazy, right? The other thing about the CapCut thing is that it's not like a temporary clause. It wasn't like we have it for 60 days. They described in the terms as perpetual, worldwide, royalty-free, and sub-licensable. So it's like forever, they could just be giving your face away.
Yeah, so it's like we couldn't even get advertisements ourselves. Like they could just sell our identity to do advertisements and get money off of that. We get nothing.
We get nothing. That's exactly. And like these production houses being like, oh, you came in, you were an extra in a movie once. And you got paid like maybe $50 or something. I don't know. I've never been an extra in a movie. But you get paid, you know, some amount of money for your day's work of being there for a few minutes while they scan you. And then in perpetuity, you're popping up in all kinds of movies in different attire, saying different things, and you don't see a single penny. That's crazy. And you wonder why Taylor Swift redid all of her albums. Like, I don't even like her. I don't even fuck with her like that. But she redid all of her albums so she would own the content. Like, it's insane she had to do that.
Yeah.
And now Spotify's doing crazy stuff too. I can't even. I can't even. And there's nowhere else to go. I'm freaking out. And while the Ghouls aren't famous enough to have our faces stolen, like now I've said it, like, you know, there's a rule. We probably are out there somewhere. I'm gonna like be fully honest. We're out there somewhere. I'm so sorry.
I hate it.
But like even us as like this low tier quote unquote celebrity and identity, like internet identity, like it's not a really far off possibility. Deepfakes exist and get worse every day, right? How AI makes it so terribly easy to manipulate images that it is a chokehold on entire generations. Like I can't stand getting like an image and my mom's like, look at this tiger best friends with a deer. And I was like, that's not real. Why can't you tell that that's not real? What part of your brain looks at that and goes, that's possible?
Yeah.
Why can't you see that it's gross? Like it's icky to look at. Like, why aren't you repulsed? I don't know.
It has clearly been manipulated. Yeah.
So while it can be seen, while it can be seen as an accessibility feature, I recently encountered content where people's voices and faces were changed on Instagram. My phone is in Spanish so that I can trick myself into learning Spanish. And so it started automatically changing reels on Instagram to be in Spanish and not dubbed. Like before, the subtitles would be in Spanish. Fine. It's not dubbed. Okay. These people's mouths were moving correctly to the words and it was in their voices.
Yeah.
So it was just like, at first I was like, why does this person, I was like, this is weird. This person doesn't sound like they speak Spanish like naturally. And then I realized at the bottom it said like view original. I click it. This person's speaking English.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so crazy. I like saved it.
I literally, it's funny. I talked about it later because there's actors who have like voluntarily done that. But like, I doubt the influencers are voluntarily being like, save my image into AI to manipulate into, and I get it, like from an accessibility standpoint, it's interesting, like it's helpful because then like someone who does speak fluent Spanish now can understand the content, but like ethically questionable.
Right. That's the other Disney Star Wars show, and the two actors, someone's yelling at me on the internet. They are Spanish speakers, and they dubbed all of their characters' lines. Like they redid them themselves, which is really amazing. That's cool, right? That's why it's like that's why I got rid of Duolingo. I was like, you can't get rid of all of your translators and just make it AI.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust you now. Like, I already had like, you were saying stuff and didn't make any sense logically. And so I was being like, that's not real. And I got it wrong. I was like, that's not what happens. Like, so it is just a really scary time to be a content creator, whether you're one of us lowly influencer internet stars or a top paid actor. Is scary stuff. And we've talked at length about the impact of deepfakes on women and creators, specifically in our Cam episode, like of like revenge porn and some of the dangers of that, and just even like sex workers having their videos stolen and manipulated in ways outside of what they would have agreed to. Like people still have like lines, you know?
Yeah.
In our episode, Kat has a lot of helpful tips for protecting your work, and hopefully they still apply. That episode came out 2 years ago. Technology goes really fast, so I can't vouch for if those things are still applicable, but check them out. So there really is no end to the horrors we can both imagine and live through in a world where we are expected to sign our lives and likeness away anytime we want to watch the newest media darling. If we want to watch Joan is Awful, we have to subscribe. We have to hit those terms and conditions, and we're not reading them. 2 last thoughts. Sorry.
No, I'll go.
No, leave the people. So while the theft of Joan's life and Salma's likeness is the overarching story being told here, there's another one I failed to notice on my first watch of the episode, and then when I rewatched it for this, I was like, oh my god, that's so real. Before Joan watches Joan is Awful, she goes to her therapist and she waxes on about her sad life, and she expresses an emotion and feeling that was incredibly familiar and applicable to this episode. She explains how she doesn't feel like the main character of her life, and that at some point she had woken up and simply been here, never having consciously made the decisions that led her to this life, her job, her fiance, and overall bleakness. And while meta speaking, right, this is entirely true, as Annie Murphy's Joan didn't make any of those choices, right? She even expresses this thought in the end while destroying the computer, saying that Joan had already made her decision and she was just living it out. She was like, this isn't my choice, this is Joan's choice. I'm not real, right?
Yeah.
But Prime Joan also felt this sentiment, which is why we see it unfold for Annie Joan in the first place. So while there is a literal truth to the sentiment, what Prime Joan is feeling in that moment is disassociation. Which I was like pissed that the therapist didn't say that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're dissociating.
Yeah, she was not helpful at all. Not very therapy-ish at all. But this is a very real trait of which is feeling like you are not the main character of your life. Like you're watching your own life as if it is on television, if it is a movie. And as someone who has lived most of their youth in such a state, I identified heavy with all iterations of Joan in that moment. Like I literally said to my therapist, I felt like I was like a side character in a movie. Like that my life wasn't real. And I treated other people like they were characters in a movie. And it made for a lot of really bad situations.
Yeah.
Because it turns out they're real people.
It turns out we're not in a movie.
They have feelings. I have feelings. And they're also valid.
It's true.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. It is just a truly isolating and depressing place to exist when you don't feel like an active participant in your life. It added to the happy ending to see Prime Joan in the end in her real therapy session, finally feeling like she wasn't simply playing a part, but was truly living her life actively. And then lastly, during an exposition moment in the episode where the head of Streamberry discloses to a reporter that there are more Are Awful episodes set to premiere, including the reporter themselves, the reporter asks, why awful? Right? Why not something nicer? And CEO Mona Javadi admits they tried a series of Are Awesome shows with test audiences and found that most people enjoyed seeing others at their worst. And while I will argue that reality TV and most TV does support this argument, I still hate it as an excuse. I just don't buy it, right? I love messy TV, don't get me wrong. But I also love sappy and sweet programs, right? So Love on the Spectrum is my palate cleanser after any trashy reality love show. Like if I watch Love is Blind, I immediately go into Love on the Spectrum, right? Like things like that. Like I'm like, let me find something that's wholesome. And I've just
authentic,
I've just never been a fan of the narrative that people only want to see others fail and that we are all waiting to watch a disaster. And while we certainly love to watch a train wreck, there's more to us as viewers than that. we love a happy ending, which is why I think it's really nice that we got one. Because it's also very rare to do, especially in, you know, a show like Black Mirror.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of shows that we've watched recently, or movies even, that where I'm just like, ow, I need a week to recover from watching this. Like, media should not always be that. You won't be able to like cope with existence if it's always that. You need a happy ending sometimes, because happy endings happen in real life sometimes. Like it is hard to get to, but it is a possibility. And it's like, let us imagine a world where this isn't so depressing, you know?
Yeah.
Because how will we get there without that?
Right. I also think of like if there's a bunch of shows with that are awful, right? At some point, like you or someone you know is going to be on there. And so then it becomes less of like, that's, you know, a television thing, right? It becomes really real. It's like if, you know, you're watching Love Island and everyone's being messy and then it turns out like that's your friend up there, right? It changes the whole like perception of it. So I think like the show was doomed from the start because they didn't take into effect that people would care, that people would matter. And then at some point, if Joan didn't do it, someone was going to do it because they were going to look out for each other. It just sucks that like, she didn't really have anyone until she had Annie Murphy, who was really just looking out for herself. She didn't want to be on the TV either.
Yeah, no, like it's like you need that sense of community to help fight the awful for sure.